Story Internet. Hope everyone is having a wonderful day so far. I am glad to report that I am here with you today with a bit of happy news. It's not all over, but it's effectively all over. As you can see, I'm back representing Manchester United again because the European Super League has been killed in its tracks. It is dead and buried. It is no more. We have nothing in that calibre to look forward to ever again, hopefully. But unfortunately, I am going to have to be a little bit of a John Oliver character in this, because even though it's a happy time, I do want to bring light to some of the other things that are going on. So I'm going to talk about the reaction from the fans, how the fans have won this, and I'm also going to talk about a couple of other things, such as Joel Glazer's statement and John Henry's statement from Liverpool. But let's get into it. So on Tuesday, shortly after I released my video on Monday, we had the Chelsea versus Brighton match, and Chelsea fans were absolutely disgusted. They were protesting in the streets, and it even took Petr Cech to get down there and get the fans to clear so that they could get the bus through, so that they could actually get to the stadium, because otherwise they wouldn't have been able to play the match. So, and then shortly after that, it was announced that Chelsea was going to be pulling out of the Super League. So they were the first team to do so. Then shortly after that, Manchester City announced that they were going to be pulling out as well. And Pep Guardiola made a similar statement to what everyone else was thinking about how disgusted he was with everything that was going on. And as we'll learn from a lot of the things that I'm talking about, the players, even certain executives, didn't know what was going on. And they are just as disgusted as we are. And so Pep Guardiola was disgusted. Another person who didn't even know what was going on, who I want to just touch light on, was Paolo Maldini, so the director of AC Milan. And AC Milan was one of the teams that was in the European Super League. And if his words are true, he had no idea that this was going on. But one of the big things that resulted from all of this fervour, as a Manchester United fan, was Ed Woodward resigning. And one of the key factors in this, from what's being reported from the Manchester Evening News to the BBC, is that Harry Maguire and Luke Shaw actually confronted him about this and recommended that he should resign over everything that was going on. Now, it seems as though he was going to resign at the end of the season anyway, but even still, this is just another one of those things where it's like a small victory for us fans, because we've been trying to get rid of him for such a long time. Now, another thing that came up, and I want to give credit where credit is due. Now, as a Manchester United fan, it pains me to do this, as someone who represents Liverpool, but Jordan Henderson called an emergency meeting of all the Premier League captains to see if there was anything that they could do as players from their level to try and help fix things. And that just speaks volumes. It really does. Because the thing about these footballers is, yes, they've got the money and the status and the fame and everything like that, but they started out just like us. They might not play for the team that they support, just like Wayne Rooney supported Everton, played for Manchester United, but they understand what football is all about. They started at the grassroots level in academies, going to stadiums with their parents or with their family or their friends or whatever, and so they understand the importance, they understand where we're coming from, whereas the executives like the Glazers and John Henry and people like that don't really understand it because they're so far removed from reality. So I'm going to go through a couple other things, and then there's a tweet I want to bring up, and I'm still quite new to the editing software, but I'm going to try and insert the tweet while I'm talking about it. If not, I'll put it at the end of the video so that everyone can see it. But it's a tweet from someone called Carl Anker, who is a reporter for The Athletic, and I think he makes a very good point. So let's go through. So Ed Woodward, I'm reading this from BBC. It actually came before Manchester United removed themselves from the Super League, which is disgusting in my opinion. I was left quite heartbroken with the fact that Manchester United was last. The way that they did it, just a tweet saying, "We will not take part in this." No public statement, and that was it. That was disgusting. And I'm going to read what Gary Neville tweeted because I agree with Gary Neville. He said, "I read this 3 to 4 times now, quite possibly the worst communication I've ever seen in my life." And it's literally just a tweet from Manchester United. "We will not be participating in the European Super League." But hashtag MUFC, because that makes it better. That's all forgiven. No. So I'm just going to read a little bit of what Ed Woodward said. "I am extremely proud to have served United, and it has been an honour to work for the world's greatest football club for the past 16 years. The club is well positioned for the future, and it will be difficult to walk away at the end of the year." So he's not retiring straight away. It's going to be end of the year. So that's a bit disappointing. I was hoping it would be immediate, which it could still be because reports are coming that UEFA is kicking off all of these owners and executives from committees that FIFA heads because they are so disgusted with everything that's been going on here. So hopefully, long may that continue. So that's Ed Woodward. Now, in its entirety, I'm going to read Joel Glazier's statement because I don't think it's good enough. And I just want to read it in its entirety because no statement from any of the other Glaziers. No statement from Ed Woodward, with the exception of saying that he's resigning. No remorse from any of these people. This is what he said. It's going to take me about a minute, so if you want to skip through, please go ahead. "To all Manchester United supporters, over the past few days we have all witnessed the great passion which football generates and the deep loyalty our fans have for this great club. You made very clear your opposition to the European Super League, and we have listened. We got it wrong, and we want to show that we can put things right. Although the wounds are raw, and I understand that it will take time for the scars to heal, I am personally committed to rebuilding trust with our fans and learning from the message you delivered with such conviction. We continue to believe that European football needs to become more sustainable throughout the pyramid for the long term. However, we fully accept that the Super League was not the right way to go about it. In seeking to create a more stable foundation for the game, we failed to show enough respect for its deep-rooted traditions, promotion, relegation, the pyramid, and for that we are sorry. This is the world's greatest football club, and we apologise unreservedly for the unrest caused during these past few days. It is important for us to put that right. Manchester United has a rich heritage, and we recognise our responsibility to live up to its great traditions and values. The pandemic has thrown up so many unique challenges, and we are proud of the way Manchester United and its fans from Manchester and around the world have reacted to the enormous pressures during this period. We also realise that we need to better communicate with you, our fans, because you will always be at the heart of the club. In the background, you can be sure that we will be taking the necessary steps to rebuild relationships with other stakeholders across the game, with a view to working together on solutions to the long-term challenges facing the football pyramid. Right now, our priority is to continue to support all of our teams as they push for the strongest possible finish to the season. In closing, I would like to recognise that it is your support which makes this club so great, and we thank you for that." Now, he said some good things there. He said the right things. But, to quote Liverpool supporters group Spirit of Shankly, when they were talking about John Henry's PR exercise apology, it's too little, too late. The Glaziers, John Henry, Stan Kroenke, I can't remember the Juventus chairman, I think it was Agnelli, and the rest of them have been treating our teams with such disrespect for such a long time that this is too little too late. The Super League was the nail in the coffin. The Glaziers have to go. Fenway Sports Group has to go. Stan Kroenke has to go. Daniel Levy from Spurs has to go. They have to get out of our clubs and leave them respectfully. And the thing is, I'm not saying that football cannot be made into a business. But let's look at Leicester. And I'm going to be respectful here and not try and pronounce the late Leicester chairman's name or his son's name. But that family has done it right. They came to Leicester. They built up support from the community. They were constantly having fan support days. Did things the right way. Charitable, just did everything right. I'm sure they made mistakes, but they endeared themselves to the community, brought Leicester up, kept them in the Premier League, and then won the Premier League. And then even after winning the Premier League, and raking in God knows how much money, they still continued to support the team, to support the fans, and to support the community. And that's the way it should be done. That's the way it can be done. Not just in this sport, but in any sport, but especially in football. Because the thing is, football starts on the parks and on the streets and in the communities out there. It doesn't start in the boardroom. It doesn't start in the banks. It's not about money. It's about community. And it's about togetherness. And on that note, I want to go to the tweet that I was talking about earlier from Carl Anker. So I'm going to read it just in case I can't fit it into the editing. But I'm going to try and read it and fit it at the same time. But here's what he said. Kick-off times, ticket prices, funding for the women's game, lasting anti-racism initiatives, proper wealth distribution, reforms on tribunals, on the poaching of academy players, free-to-watch games, so much more. Keep going. Make the game you want. And that is very important because this is just the first step in, like he said, making the game that we want. This is the first step to making sure that we have equality. This is the first step to make sure that there is no racism, no sexism, no discrimination of any kind, no homophobia, no transphobia in the beautiful game. It is called the beautiful game because when it's done well, it can be so beautiful. It's created moments that we will remember for the rest of our lives. And it creates a togetherness that we can't explain to anyone else. Trying to explain sport, and especially football in general, to people who don't watch it is like trying to understand Greek to an alien who's never been to Earth before. It doesn't make sense to anyone else, but we know deep inside ourselves the feeling that football can generate. And everyone should be inclusive. Everyone should be able to enjoy that feeling and feel those emotions, whether it's the players or the fans or even the people that own the club. As long as they're there for the right reasons and as long as they are not trying to take away something that so many people love for the benefit of money. Because money is not the end all. It's important. And like I said, I'm not saying that these clubs should not be able to make money. They are a business at the end of the day. But you've got to remember the fans. And one thing that I would like to put out there, and I'm going to try and make a separate video on this, I have mentioned it before, is the 50+1 rule. And this is something that German teams have by law, and it's to keep fans involved. It's to keep them having the final say. And that's the reason no German fans were invited, because they knew that the fans wouldn't go for it. Even Bayern Munich, which is one of the most vastly successful teams in European football, they constantly win the Bundesliga. They're always there or thereabouts in the Champions League. They're one of the best teams in the world. They are 51% fan run. In fact, I think it's more like 75%. And they generate a huge amount of money, an ungodly amount of money, from the likes of Allianz and T-Mobile and all their other sponsors. And yet, the fans have control. And that's the way it should be. That is the way it should be. Fans should have more control over the team that they love. Because I've been supporting Manchester United for as long as I can remember. I doubt that the Glaziers even knew who Manchester United were until 2005. Let's give them credit. 2003. Let's say it took 2 years to acquire the team. I bet they didn't even know who they were. And even if they did, they only knew by name. They didn't understand the team. They didn't understand the fans. They didn't even know what Manchester was like, I bet. I bet they got off the plane and thought, oh God, why are we in this damp part of the world? But a football team represents more than just the sport. It represents more than just the 22 men on the pitch at that time. It represents community. It represents charity. It represents sportsmanship. It represents so much more than just a money-making opportunity. And these people don't understand that. And that's why I think Carl Anker's tweet is so important. Because it's true. Ticket pricing is getting so outrageous that everyday fans can't afford it. Merchandise is getting so outrageous that everyday fans can't afford it. Racism is so prevalent and way too prevalent, and we saw that in the Arsenal versus Slavia Prague match. A team that had already been found out for being incredibly racist against Rangers Kamara. And they still stood in solidarity against the call to kneel to kick racism out of football. And there's a very powerful image of Alexandre Lacazette staring them down. And that is a reminder that racism rears its ugly head way too commonly. Homophobia is something that isn't talked about in football. There are many, many players who have anonymously said that they are too scared to say who they really are. Gay fans don't want to go to matches for fear that they will be discriminated against. And that's not what this sport is all about. It is about equality. It is about acceptance. Because if you look at a football team, you can have 11 players on the pitch that are from 11 nationalities, from 11 different corners of the universe. But they are there to represent one common goal. And if you look at Old Trafford, for example, you've got 75,000 people in that stadium that represent 75,000 ideologies and 75,000 nationalities or races or beliefs, religious systems, whatever, all together for that hour and a half for one common goal. And that's what we need to remember. We need to make our voices heard. And we can celebrate this victory because this is a huge victory. This is the will of the fans standing up to the will of the money-grabbing society that is trying to tear it down. And we should celebrate that. And we should remember that we are powerful when we come together. Now, I'm not saying I'm not going to make fun of Liverpool fans. I'm not saying I'm not going to bring up the fact that Manchester City can't fill its stadium, or Arsenal perennially finish in fourth, or Chelsea fans didn't exist until 2005. But to save the sport that we love, we need to remember that we can band together and stop these disgraceful things. Use this victory as fuel to keep going. And not just in football, but in society as a whole. And we will get there. I have faith that we will get there if we keep on fighting. And we must keep on fighting. Anyway, I will be back tomorrow with my usual previews and reviews, since the evil dragon that reared its ugly head has been defeated. And scheduling can continue as normal. But I just wanted to do a little update video because I think that a lot of people are excited that this is finally over. The battle is won, and we must celebrate that battle. But don't forget that the war is not over, and we will continue to fight that war. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And until tomorrow, ta-ra for now.